afternoon, and welcome to this 4th of July special edition Thursday with the one and only your host with the most, the community activist. I'm talking about GA for Justice, Miss Georgia Allen. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I was setting up in a different room, and
Yeah.
then things have been crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. But anyway, I just want to welcome everybody to the GA for Justice. I am your host, Georgia F. Allen, and have been out here on the battlefield for a long time. But first and foremost, as always, I want to just thank you, Henderson Vaughn, Captain 85, the Dream Maker, for all that you do in our community, in front of the camera, behind the camera, in front of the scenes, behind the scenes. You have been here for decades working to open up the airwaves so that we can have voices out there who are not voices that just follow the leader, but you open up your airways so that others can have a voice and can focus on the issues that pertains to our community, but focus on those issues in a manner that is beneficial to the community and not nonsense. So for that, I thank you.
No doubt.
And of course, GA for Justice started 3 years ago. We'll be coming up on the third anniversary, and so I'm kind of one of these people. I do things in threes. So I guess in the fall we'll have a big celebration. I'll come up with something to celebrate 3 years of being on the air. And as always, we try to bring a community conversation because I feel that is so very important in this era of nonsense and foolishness and misinformation, disinformation, that there is a voice for the community, a voice that will come and have a conversation for information, a conversation for correction when necessary, as well as a conversation for transformation. And that's important because, and again, in today's time, we got all things going on, all at the same time. We have persons out there working more against our community than they're working in favor of our community. And so we want to make sure that we have people on the air who can talk about some of these issues as it pertains to our young people, whether it be in education, whether it be on city council, or any of the other places where people are making an impact. We want to make sure that we have persons on our airwaves that can talk to people openly and honestly about what is taking place. One thing that we all know is that you can't buy respect and you can't buy trust.
Hello.
You earn it. And I want to introduce you to the young lady who's going to be on with us today. Of course, this is the month of July. The month of July is the 7th month. And so on the 7th month, we do IMANI, which is faith. And IMANI says that faith is to believe with all of our hearts in our people and the righteousness and the victory of our struggle. If you know anything about Virginia Beach, we'll always have an election. So there is always a struggle to get people elected to office that represent us and not people who are puppets and are handpicked by persons who don't even live in the district. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce you to the one and only Anissa Bowden. Anissa was born and raised right here in Norfolk, Virginia. She is a strong advocate for our youth, and she earned her Bachelor of Elementary Education degree from Old Dominion University in 1991, and then went on to earn her master's degree in Educational Administration as well from ODU, but that was in the year 2000. She purchased a home in the city of Virginia Beach in 1997 at the young, tender age of 28 years old and has been a resident of this city for over 2 decades. Anissa has been married for over 16 years. And with that union, they have a rising ninth grader who attends the Virginia Beach City Public Schools. Anissa recently placed her name in competition for the school board District 4 seat. While she did not receive the majority of the votes to earn the endorsement, she does not see it as a loss, but as a lesson learned. Those of us in District 4, however, see it as a loss for our children who could use a strong voice for the concerns of this district. Anissa is uniquely qualified to advocate for our students, our teachers, and our community, as she has over 30 years of experience in the education field. As a teachers union representative, as a former election official, a parent, teacher, vice president, and as a worship leader in her church, she brings a balance of faith, focus, and fight to our city, and a willingness to listen to all stakeholders. She would have been a tremendous voice on the school board for the let down, the left out, and the left behind. We are so very pleased and honored to have our very special guest on today's program, Mrs. Anissa Bowden. Welcome, Anissa.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And we have Miss Jordan. All right. We're glad that you were able to join us today. Of course, the topic is IMANI. We're talking about faith, and we're talking about gifts to serve. And you and I both know, in a community, in a city like the Virginia Beach, it's a gift to serve others. And so we are pleased to have you today. We're gonna kick off the show and talk a little bit about the caucus that we just recently had.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when there's a caucus, you run in a particular party caucus. So everybody doesn't get to vote. So just share with people a little bit about the caucus and how important it is that people come out, because if they want representation, they got to vote for representation.
Exactly. It was a great opportunity for me, and I want to thank everyone who did come out. The caucus, I did not win, but it was a great learning opportunity for me to understand the process of the caucus. My opponent did win, and I am thankful for the opportunity to be in the number. You know, as Christians, we are not disappointed when we lose. We see it as a learning opportunity for the next opportunity that comes by. It is a time when voters will come out and choose who they want to represent them in the democratic process. And so she was given the endorsement of the Democratic Party. And I see that as God has something for me. And we don't see it as a loss. We see it as an opportunity to see, you know, with faith. We're talking about the gifts to serve. Mm-hmm. I may be able to serve in another
capacity.
A capacity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're excited. And what about you, Jordan? How do you feel about it? Because you were actively involved, and look, we're excited about that, because that's very good for our young people to be actively involved in the political process.
Right. I really think that it's important to be involved in it, and I am really involved in it, even like before my mom decided to run. And even though she did not win the caucus, I'm still glad that she tried, and that she held herself together, and that she didn't see it as a loss. And I'm really happy that she didn't get very upset about it.
Wonderful. And you know what? We see it as a loss to our district and to our children. But again, we don't see it as a total loss, because every time you get in a fight, you know, you're always learning something. As most people know, I'm a strong advocate for our community. And I do want to pause for a moment and to remind everybody that on July the 2nd was Medgar Evers' birthday. and I have his pen on. It's probably hard to see. And as a civil rights activist, as someone who was willing to fight, and actually got assassinated in the front yard of his home, it showed you the passion that people who came before us had. And he was always special to me because unfortunately he was actually assassinated on my birthday in June. Yeah, so I was 10 years old when we lost Medgar Evers. I was simply 10 years old. And so it was a really hard thing as I was growing up. And so we always want to acknowledge our ancestors and how important they are to us. And I just want to put a quote that he had. And I think this is so important because it reminds me a lot of you, Anissa. He says, "You can kill a man, but you can't kill his ideas." And the one thing that I have learned about you as you were going through the process is you had ideas for a better future, a better life for our babies and our teachers in the system. So kind of share with the audience, some of your ideas, and don't share all because people steal stuff. And I'm sure folks are out there watching, even though they don't tell you they're watching. They're probably behind the scenes, got their operatives out there or what have you. But I chose you. I think that you have the qualities of integrity. You have the qualities of respect and trust that I value.
Yeah. And one of the things that Medgar taught us, that freedom is not free.
No.
That we fight every day. And that literacy is something that we believe in. I was an English teacher, as you know. And one of the people that was my hero was John Lewis. And that he taught us that we must not ban books that relate to our history. We teach all of our history. And that's one of the things that I always fought for as a teacher, is that we want to teach our children to read, and we don't ban books. We read books.
All right.
Really, since over the summer, the students have a learning loss of about 20%. And so there's a tendency right now to ban books in our school system. Virginia Beach Public Schools has a policy now where there's a committee, and the committee is looking at every single book that comes in. So the public library, the Virginia Beach Public Library, has broken with them. They no longer provide books to Virginia Beach City Public Schools because of this banning of books. So I'm having a problem with that. And so we know that most people who are incarcerated are reading at a 4th grade level. So if we do not educate our students to read and to be literate, there's a direct pipeline to the prisons. And so I'm very concerned that our youth are given this pipeline. If we're banning these books, not letting them read, then that's what I'm concerned about. So I'm I'm in favor of reading. I'm in favor of letting them read online on their phones, digitally, but also let them read what they want to read, and having the parents monitor it. So if you're afraid of what they're reading, the parents are parenting. When she comes home, I'm looking at what she's reading, and we know our parents are doing their jobs. I'm also in favor of the teachers getting raises. There's no reason why we should be in last place of 7 cities.
And see, here again, we want people who are focused, willing to fight, but still have their faith and don't allow that to compromise what has to take place in our school system. Again, I'm a strong advocate of following principles, being guided by your principles. And again, even though the outcome was not perhaps what we feel that District 4 needs, I do know that we have a principle called Kuchi Chagalia, self-determination. And
Yes.
I have seen you throughout the campaign how determined you are. And it's like to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, speak for ourselves, and do not allow others to define us, speak for us, do not name us, but let us name ourselves. And I think that also is who you are, that
Mm.
you stand up for principles. And that is critically important, especially in today's time, that we have persons who are not afraid to push back against what is wrong. And they don't go along just to get along when it becomes harmful to our children. So that is one of the things that allowed me to see you as a person who would represent the best in our children, and for those who are falling short, that you're willing to pick them up and help them to move forward. So you are self-determined, and that I definitely appreciate that about you.
Thank
Now,
you.
Jordan, tell us a little bit about your mom's self-determination. And you got a whole lot of self-determination in you too, because I've seen it.
My mom is really determined. She really cares about kids. I mean, that's why I'm here, and that's one of the reasons why she became a teacher. And I think it probably started from when my mom was younger, and then she always really was happy whenever she came home from work. She always told me stuff that her kids were doing, how they were learning, and she inspired me. And that's why I'm really um, interested in books and politics and justice. And when I was younger, we used to do this reading challenge thing from the public library that they actually took away. And my mom, she's worked a lot with her students to help them out individually. I would see her sometimes at night staying up, making sure that she was ready for the next day to help them out. And that's why I really believe in her. And I can tell that she's really passionate about this because she's seen what it's like to not have certain things like education wise or even just in general. And that's one of the reasons why she's doing this.
Well, we definitely appreciate that. So, Anissa, tell me a little bit more about your self-determination, that fight that you have in you when it comes to our babies. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes. When I was younger, I had to fight to get what I wanted. I wasn't raised with a silver spoon, and I was raised mostly by my granny. And my granny did not have a college education or a high school education, but she impressed upon us the fact that you could go far with your education. She wanted to make sure that I was educated. And so I could remember her coming up to the schoolhouse with me when someone mistreated me or the teacher was not treating me fairly because of my skin color.
Mhm.
And I remember being suspended because I had to go to the restroom. And she would say, I was tell her that my tummy was hurting. And she said, why? I said, because I was not allowed to go to the restroom. And she said, well, you just walk out and go. But when I did so, I got suspended. Came home, I thought I was going to get a whooping. She said, you're not going to get a whooping. They're going to get it. And I said, oh, we went back to the school. She said, you're unsuspended.
Mhm.
I said, Granny, you can't unsuspend. She said, I can. And she put me back in the classroom. The teacher looked at her. She said, I'm unsuspending her. She went down there and had some words with the principal.
Mhm.
And
And
so,
that's what we need more of today. We need these grannies and great grandparents and all to get involved in the school, because they're serving their
mhm,
children when they get involved in the school, so, and that's a gift to serve.
yeah.
I have another quote, and I'm not sure who. I may have even written it myself, but I don't know. Every day is a donation to eternity, and even 1 hour is a contribution to the future, be it positive or be it negative. And that's what I see in you, is that every day, every hour, you're donating time to our future and to the betterment of our community, the betterment of our young people. And so I don't think people think about that a lot, that every day, the hours, the seconds, the donation of time, it's a donation toward eternity, because when you leave here, people are going to be following you. They're going to be people that heard what you had to say, and their lives may have changed, be it positive or negative, because they may have caught you on the wrong day and you absolutely left a negative impact, or they may have caught you on a good day and you left a positive impact. But guess what? That's that donation. That's that donation that you put out there. And so we need to be careful when we're out here and when we're working in our community, that we work on behalf of our young people. I attended a event, a community planning discussion for the future of Betty F. Williams, which they misspelled, and Bayside sixth grade schools. Sixth grade.
Yeah.
It's really interesting
Yes.
that they couldn't even spell Mrs. Betty F. Williams' name.
Bettie.
IE. Well, on this little paper, and this I attended, it was held by the current appointed school board member, and their job that night was to kind of talk about what are we going to do about Betty F. Williams. What are your hopes for your child's future experience in the Virginia Beach school system? And should Bayside sixth grade students return to Bayside Middle or move to Betty F? And so I know you have been kind of keeping up with who's doing what.
Yeah.
Thank you, Juanita. Juanita sent us a message. Thank you.
Yes. We don't ban books, we read books.
Amen. Amen. And I think you said something about what they're trying to do, put certain people on committees and things of that nature. But before you talk about that, tell us about that book you just put up.
The first thing, yeah.
Yes. I can do
hard things.
I can do hard things. Awesome.
That's one of the first things that I teach the kids when I first go into the classrooms, that they have been taught that they can't do things. I teach them that they are scholars. Once you teach them that they are scholars and you tell them they're scholars, they believe it. But if you tell them they can't do anything, they'll believe that too. So when my students come in with whatever disability or ability, because we don't teach them they have a disability, because we all have disabilities. So we just have differing abilities. Because if a kid tells me, well, I have such and such, I said, so do I. Now, how did that stop me? It didn't. So let's move on.
All right now.
They say, what? You do? I said, let's move on. And they look at me and say, oh, okay. If you can do it, I can too. I said, yes, we can do hard things. So with Bayside and Betty F, one of the things that has to happen is we have to go into the school and observe. So what I do is I sub in the schools. I've subbed there. The kids are wonderful. The teachers are wonderful. And what's happening is people who are not associated with the District 4 are making decisions for us. She has not served on any of these committees. The first thing they said in the fall was the design is too large. Let's cut it down by 30%. So let's cut the classrooms by 30%. Let's cut the gyms by 30%. Let's cut the cafeteria by 30%. Let's cut the library by 30%. So what you're doing is, if there's an outbreak of COVID, the classroom is already 30% smaller. But what we're forecasting.
So the classroom size is 30% smaller
already, because that's what the other ladies who are not from District 4 or not on our side, they've already cut. They made a decision and she
regarding
decided,
the design
right,
of the
and she
building, but then
mhm,
they cut the student body per classroom by 30%.
they upped it. They upped it. They upped the size. The class sizes were upped at the end of the year. Saw that too.
So
So
they
what?
increased the number of students,
Mm-hmm.
but they wanted to make the classroom smaller.
Yeah, for just ours. They didn't do that for Princess Anne yet, but they're going to start with Princess Anne decide, and then they didn't decide when they're going to start construction. So she was not even on the committee to decide anything. She just sat quietly while they discussed it around her, and she was just sitting there quietly.
So she's appointed to
She's
represent
appointed.
the
Yes,
students, the parents, the community. But when they discussed what was going on directly in District 4,
she
she
didn't
had
open
no
her
comment.
mouth. She had no comments. So
No input, no suggestions, no recommendations.
3 women talked about it: Weems, Brown, and Manning. And she said nothing. She allowed them to discuss. Brown was the first one to bring it up. I don't understand why it has to be 30% larger than it was. Well, it was built in the 60s.
Correct.
And the student body has computers. It has differing needs now. So that's why. And then also we have COVID and influenza and all these different things. So we have to distance ourselves 6 feet when we have an outbreak. So that's why. So they decreased, they changed the design of the building already by 30% smaller all over, even the gymnasium. And some of them even said, don't even give them a gymnasium. Mm-hmm. Why do they need that? So they're like them, like we're aliens or something. I was offended. Mm-hmm. That was another reason. So this happened in the fall. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to run, because I was offended.
Mm-hmm. And you were concerned about the well-being
of our children. Because I was already subbing in these areas. I was subbing in Betty F. I was subbing in, even though Luxford is near my house, it may not be in our district, but it was right.
But it's children.
Haygood. It was still some of our kids. I think Luxford is though. But Pembroke, Haygood, Hermitage, all of these different schools near our house. And they don't care about the children near us. And it just upset me so. And the kids are so wonderful, loving. They get a bad rap.
What I think I'm hearing you say is that the school board that we currently have is dismissive of District 4.
That's what they are. And then when it came to the Bayside High building, they were siphoning money out of that building's budget to pay for other items. That was another no that I saw. We already had a budget to rebuild Bayside High. They kept putting it off because we didn't have a large enough amount of people who were supporting District 4. So everybody, even though they were maybe Democrats, it's supposed to be
independents,
whatever. They just said, nope. The superintendent recommended to take money out to pay for other things because they said they had a deficit. And that's what they did. They siphoned off money out of the Bayside High budget because they had allocated the money so many years ago. So every time they needed some, they just siphoned off a couple $1 million out of that budget to pay for other things. And I was livid.
Folks, if you're listening, this is GA for Justice with our special guest, Anissa Bowden, and her daughter, Jordan. And this is the time that I usually give a few announcements. Today, I only have one. And unless someone else has an announcement, I always like to announce the fact that on the second Monday of every month, and I can actually announce two, second Monday of every month is the NAACP general membership meeting at 7 p.m. It is located at the town center in the building where the Hive is, and it's right across the street from Apex. So if you haven't been, if you can find Apex, and if you're standing on the sidewalk of Apex and looked across the street, you would see the Hive sitting right on the corner. So please feel free to come and join us at the NAACP meeting. Also, CTAC Civic League also has their meeting the very same night, the second Monday of the month. You might want to Google it to double check the time. I'm not sure if they start at 6:30 or 7 o'clock, but you can Google and do that one. I'm not going to do any of the political parties that have meetings or anything like that at this time. But we do want to encourage you to get involved in your community. We find a lot of people show up at the last second and really misuse, abuse, take advantage of, and unfortunately, they don't take advantage in a manner that is beneficial to our community. And so that can be quite disturbing. The other thing that, of course, can be quite disturbing is persons within the community that you expect to be supportive. They look more like a Judas than they look like a Paul. See, Paul made his mistakes in the beginning. He was Saul, and they changed his name to Paul because he understood the importance of being a faithful soldier of Jesus Christ. And but Judas, he was a betrayer. And we have found that to be the case in our community, unfortunately. And so what we're going to have to do, based upon the fact that we watched everything that took place, that we're going to have to identify the Judases early on so that we can hopefully eliminate or reduce the impact of a Judas in our community. Because the one thing that is tough to deal with are people who betray the trust. I'm sorry. Let me wait a moment.
Okay, let's get ourselves together. I will say I am more of a Peter.
Okay. You cut the ear off?
I will cut that ear off. Smooth as butter. But when it comes down to it, I'm going to defend Jesus. I'm going to fight for Jesus. I'm going to tell you, I'm a fighter.
You're going to fight for our children.
Yes, I will fight for those kids. Look, I told the kids when the attacker comes in this building, I'm gonna put myself first. I'm gonna go back to all that stuff from Berkeley that I knew from when I was 4 or 5 years old. Put that Vaseline on, and y'all can go out the window. I'm gonna sacrifice myself for you. They started laughing. I'm gonna pretend like it's Karate Kid. I'm gonna, do what Mr. Miyagi taught me.
I am going to get on my phone. I see me on the phone. Now I got to see if I can get myself on the phone. Can you see me? Because I can see myself and I see myself talking.
You're okay on the screen. I mean, everything's.
Can you see me on the screen?
Yeah, you're up here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. I'm like, for some reason, my screen on my computer is showing black. I don't know why. But anyway, I see my hand movements. I see myself talking and everything. All right. Well, let's see. We are at about 12:39. I made our announcements. I do want to remind people how important elections are.
Yes.
And that is all of them. Our local elections, our statewide elections, our constitutional offices, our federal elections. That's including Congress. That's our state Senate. That's our president. all of those elections are important because each one of those elections impact different things in your community. So I always want to remind people, elections, elections, elections. We need you out there voting, because if you don't vote, then the people who get elected to office may not work in your best interest. And because you didn't vote, you influenced the election away from your needs, and it turned out in the best interest of others.
Mm-hmm. I
So
always say, if you pay taxes, if you buy things, if you have children or grandchildren, nieces or nephews or friends, kids in the school system, then it is very important. If you pay property taxes, those taxes are going to the schools, and they can be raised or lowered to pay for the school system. Right now, we are about 70 teachers. We are a deficit of 70 teachers. And the city council has been asked to pay for those additional teachers that the Virginia Beach City Public Schools need. So they may allocate more money out of property taxes. They may ask to raise more taxes. Right now, we are paying the Virginia Beach doesn't pay the most taxes out of the 77 cities. So they may up property taxes a little bit. We got a 2-cent discount, so they may take that 2-cent discount away. So everybody needs to vote, because it's going to affect your pocketbook.
One way or another.
Mm-hmm.
One way or another. And that is so very true. When we did this last election, afterwards I became extremely disturbed, because I remember when there was a Shirley Chisholm, and she was unbought and unbossed. I remember when there was a Barbara Jordan.
Barbara Jordan,
furious fighter for justice. I remember Angela Davis, when she did not hold back to fight against the harm that was being done toward the community. I remember a Barbara Johns who was willing to go to school here in the state of Virginia, or the Commonwealth of Virginia, and they didn't want her there because she was a Black child. But I also remember Marva Collins, who was an educator, who took those little kids from the south side of Chicago or Detroit. I always get it confused, because both of them are two cities that needed a strong person. And she took those kids at a very young age and ensured that they were able to read early. They were able to learn multiple languages early. When our regular schools and our so-called elitist schools were, their kids was behind. Her children in first grade was already reading at a fourth grade level by the time they came out of first grade. And so I remember those types of people from our community who was willing to fight for our babies. And so I'm going to continue to fight for good folks to represent us. To represent Chicago. Yes. And I'm going to fight for good governance, because we don't want people who misuse, abuse, are not good stewards of the monies, but they're not good stewards of any of the resources. They misuse our resources. They misuse our educators, our bus drivers. They misuse so many people in our system. And it's very troubling to me, extremely troubling to me. So I'm so glad that you agreed to come on, because I wanted somebody up here who knows something way more than I do about education and about how money is being allocated and how it's being moved around on the balance sheet. It starts out over here, and then they slowly take it away from our babies and give it away to someone else. And so I'm hoping that you will remain a voice, even though you may not be on school board this time around. It's a 2-year term.
Yeah. And there's
It's a 2-year term.
another pocket of money that was allocated from the state, $1 million to go to a recovery school.
Mm-hmm.
The deal was that CHKD and ODU would partner with Virginia Beach Public Schools to open up a recovery school, but all the 7 cities would join in with Virginia Beach Public Schools. So far, CHKD and ODU dropped out of the deal. They said, nope, something is not right. We're not doing it.
Okay.
We're not putting our money in this deal. Something's not right. It was 2 years in the making. We don't know anything else that's going on with it. But the state gave us a grant of $1 million or $2 million. $1 million has been given to us by the state. The other $500 or $1 million is going into to study what to do. I don't agree with that. Since we have a deficit, put that money to the students' education.
Wow.
Now, I'm listening to this about 2 weeks ago, and I'm red flags are just up in my head. No one at the school board, they're just saying, I don't agree with this. A few of them, like Bev Anderson, saying, well, I'm underwhelmed by this presentation and this money shouldn't go there. And they're saying $750,000 will pay for this study. $750,000 when you just said that you are so many $1 million in the hole. Put this to the students, and you're going to cut band teachers and art teachers and all this. I'm not, and then it's only going to serve like 30 kids, but you're building a building to put Councilwoman Weems's name on it. What?
Wait a minute. Did I hear you say?
I mean,
they want to take our money, build a school to put this woman's name on it. Am I hearing you correctly?
You heard me. I didn't stutter that time. I am a stutterer, but I didn't stutter that time. That's why I said we all have abilities. When I tell the kids we all have abilities, is when I was growing up, I was a stutterer. So the teacher told me, you can't be a teacher. In first grade, she said to me, you won't be a teacher.
But guess who's a teacher today?
Retired teacher. 30 years.
Retired teacher. All right. Well, I'm telling you, I'm extremely pleased. Henderson, did you have anything you want to share? Because this is good information to hear that they're going to take money to put somebody's name on it, on the building.
Yeah,
they can build another building, but they can't build the buildings and refurbish or redo buildings that need to be built. Talk to me a minute. Talk to us a minute.
This is what the foolishness that go on in Virginia Beach, and because the APAC and all the things that y'all been doing with the NAACP. And I mean, I talk to them, I send them letters. They tell me, Mr. Vaughn, only thing Mr. Vaughn want to do is make money. He wants to sell a book. They don't know I done wrote four different comic books and sold thousands of them and gave away thousands of them. So there's no reason when it comes to our children, the Afro-American community, they find an excuse to say, they're really saying, we're not going to do what you want us to do. We're going to take the money and put it where I just had a conversation in Norfolk with one of the city council person, and they were saying, I used to do this, and I know a lot of the gangs, and we working, and we had a bunch of people marching. Yeah, well, soon after you march, there's 4 or 5 more people gonna get killed.
Absolutely.
You have to be able to reach the young people. You have to talk to them. You got to encourage them and motivate them. And marching sometimes ain't getting it because they're still dying. You just marched Monday and on the news, somebody else got killed. 2 people got killed in Norfolk.
Correct.
So when we get to the point where we have to stay, as they say, keep your foot on their neck, you have to keep pressing, because it's not about me, it's about the future generation. Don't people understand? If I can get rid of the young people and put them in the pipeline to prison, they're killing each other, you don't have no future.
Correct.
We
That is a powerful message. If they continue to basically leave our children in a negative environment,
right,
then what's going to happen is we're going to lose that generation, and so there's no one to reproduce and create new communities.
right.
Now we are Jordan up here. I'm not going to let Jordan go without having a few words about any concerns that she may have with regards to our school system, or also any positive things that she may want to share with regards to some of the things that she's looking forward to doing, as she is a rising 9th grader ready to go off to high school. So please share, because there are young people who may be listening who want to hear from you.
I am going to 9th grade at Salem High School for the theater academy, which is like the arts program, which is another thing I was worried about, because there was someone who was trying to get rid of that. And I think that's a problem, because arts, especially music, theater, writing, painting, it's really important. And from like a young age, that's something I've also been interested in. And for a lot of people, that's an outlet. And for school, it needs to be about safety, education, and having an outlet properly to soar through life. And some people aren't really getting that in schools. And some people don't even, have books at all. And I'm glad that I do have that. And that's a thing I'm concerned about too for other schools, especially in America. And also bullying too is a really big thing, especially with mental health. And I think it's gotten worse over COVID, especially also safety as well, because some of the school shootings and things like that, and violence that has been acted upon schools. And I also think that that should be really talked about more as well.
Well, thank you. And when you talked about the arts, that's another principle of Kwanzaa, Kaumba, creativity, to do always as much as we can to
Yes.
leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than what we inherited. And so it sounds to me like you're setting the pace, the standard, and paving the way for making sure that we're going to leave our community more beautiful and more beneficial than what we inherited. So I want to thank you both so much for being with us today. I usually give you a chance to give some final comments, our guests. So Anissa, if you want to close us out with some final comments, and then I'll close out the show.
I just want to thank you both for giving us an opportunity to talk. It's been so wonderful just sharing our thoughts today for gifts to serve. Serving has been such a blessing for both of us. We just have servants' hearts. We serve the community because it's just something that God has placed upon our hearts. And it just makes both of us feel good. And we will continue to serve. We just thank you both for giving us an opportunity to talk today. Thank you again.
You are so welcome. And I want to thank you so much for being willing to come on the show and talk, because we got a chance to get to know each other. I first started out, and how I met you was I took your grant writing class over at Virginia Wesleyan College, well, university now. But I took the grant writing class, and I learned a lot in your class. And from there, you shared with me your thoughts about possibility of running for the school board position. And the two of us, we talked about it. Once I decided that I would put my name in the hat for the appointed position, I was very clear with you, regardless of who got the position, I was not going to run for the position. and you said that you know, whether you got it or not, you definitely wanted to run for the position. And I said, well, in that case, I will support you. And as a woman of integrity, to all of those who are listening, I did exactly what I said I would do. Am I correct, Anissa?
Yes, you did.
Because we have people who say they're not going to do something, and the next thing you know, they do what they said they weren't going to do. And so you take that and you ask yourself, if they were dishonest about this, will they be dishonest in other areas? And so that gets to be very concerning when you're working and dealing with people from all different walks of life. Again, this show is a show where we try to bring people information that is much needed. We try to make sure that we are talking to our audience, and we recognize that people have different backgrounds, different education, and we always try to make sure that we are not talking down to anyone, that we embrace everyone on GA for justice, because that is just the right thing to do. And again, I kind of focus on the principles of Kwanzaa because I think it's critically important that we definitely focus on those 7 principles: Umoja, Kujichagulia, Ujaima, Ujama, Nia, Kaamba, Imani. Because those principles, if we utilize them, if we work with them, I hope I said them all. if we make sure that we practice them and that we make it a part of our lives, that we can have a better impact on what takes place in our community, because our community is very important. I think you guys can all see Dr. King behind me. He's kind of the what they call it, the star that I use. He's my North Star. A lot of people think he was easygoing, but I'm gonna tell you, he was tough when he had to be and mild when necessary. And that was one of the things that I enjoyed about Dr. King. Um, I think that we need some strong men as well as women. I talked about the women earlier. Uh, People that we miss, that we don't have. But I would like to say that we do have a Jasmine Crockett who epitomizes Shirley Chisholm, epitomizes Barbara Jordan, and she's a fighter for our community. And I love Jasmine Crockett out of Texas, and she don't take no mess. And that's what we need in today's time, is we do need fighters. And so I'm going to say something about a few of our men. I have found over time that we used to have strong men in our community, not just the Black Panthers and others, but they were standing in our pulpit on Sunday morning. People like the Reverend Fred Shuttleworth standing in the pulpit on Sunday morning. People like the Reverend Vernon Johns standing in the pulpit on Sunday morning, fighting and not being worried about what the government is going to do, and I can't do this and I can't do that. And we also had people, Minister Malcolm X, and we had people like James Baldwin and Marcus Garvey. So over the years, we have had strong advocates for our community. And today, we had an advocate again for our community in Anissa Bowden. And with that being said, I am Georgia F. Allen with GA for Justice. I want to thank Jordan and her mom, Anissa, for being on our program today. And I'm going to shut down and let Henderson take us on out of here. Thank you again.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. A very uplifting conversation today. And thank the young lady as well for being here to represent her demographics as a teenager. It's because of her and other young people. This is why I created all the things that I do. And people are like, well, why you walk around with a hat on your head? Because it's art. It's creative. You have to use your imagination. You can't sit there with a shirt and tie on and think young people are going to just respect you. You got to come down to a level where they want to ask questions. It's to ask the question. And I I really appreciate you bringing her on, and hope that she takes another, you invite her again.
Yes, we're going to have a young people day.
Yeah, no
I
doubt.
love your hat.
You love the hat?
It's a fashion statement.
Yeah, it's a dream maker hat. It makes dreams come true. That's what it represents. Like you said, art is what makes you is creative, and nothing in this world and on this planet is not. Everything is creative, because that's what intellectual property means. It's a gift from God. That's why it's called intellectual, because you're creating with your mind, and with the violence, and like you said yourself, she's a young person and understand that gun violence is mental health issues, and without being able to reach them, you use art to do that. You use words so that they can learn to communicate with their teacher or with their parents, because they are afraid. And when kids are afraid, they carry guns that they don't know what they're going to do, because they're scared. But once again, I want to thank you for coming on GA for Justice, and hope that y'all have a wonderful and great 4th of July. And try not to eat too many hot dogs and hamburgers. Thank you again. And
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
bye-bye.